Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. This is part one of our series on Elevate Teams. On today's show, we have Gail Crozier
Hello.
and Dom Piccirillo.
Hi, guys. Thanks, Kenny, for having us.
Great to have you both. Gail will receive a full introduction in part two. As a sneak peek, she is the Chief Operating Officer at Woodland Park Insurance Services, based out of Kalispell, Montana. She became a licensed insurance agent with Woodland Park in 2019, and in June of 2020 was named their COO. Dom Piccirillo is the co-founder of Elevate Teams. He began his career in the insurance industry as an intern in 2006 at the Mogul organization. Dom started his own agency in 2014, the Cody Group, and in 2022 co-founded Elevate Teams. When he's not busy helping independent agents, he's most likely surfing, golfing, or snowboarding, depending on the season. We learned during our pre-talk that he is in New York City. So I pivoted from a question that we originally had that was related to his hobbies to ask a bit more pertinent question for us here at the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Dom, in your opinion, what is the best slice of pizza in the city?
My favorite slice is John's on Bleecker. It's not a slice place, though. Like, you have to go in and order a pie and sit down. Slice is probably Roberta's, but you got to go to Brooklyn for that. And I don't venture to Brooklyn that much, although I probably should more often.
Gotcha. So to set the stage for the 5 questions we ask every partner, we always start with the elevator pitch. Dom, could you give us the elevator pitch for Elevate Teams? What do you do for an agency?
We help insurance agencies grow by providing them with high quality Latin American labor. And our people perform unlicensed tasks and also do some client-facing work, answering phones, billing issues, that kind of stuff. For us, we landed on Latin America for several reasons. Same time zone, bilingual, which is helpful for a lot of people. Most of our VAs are college educated, but also culturally, they tend to be very close in culture to U.S. culture. So the rapport is, almost instant. They watch Netflix, they follow U.S. pop culture, they listen to U.S. music. So you can really develop a relationship pretty quickly with people in Latin America. And then also, being an independent agent myself, over the years, I really saw the need for virtual assistants pretty early in my career as a business owner. I did an exercise when I had first started out, and it was myself and one other employee at the time, and we were swamped. And I was like, I need to hire another person, but I can't really afford it right now, and I don't know what to do. And someone told me to do an exercise where myself and my employee write down every single task that we've done every day and approximately how much time it took for a week. So we did that. We got to the end of the week, and I realized that most of the things that I was spending my time on and my licensed employee was spending her time on were things that I was doing as an intern, an unlicensed intern. And so I said, there's got to be a way for me to, send these tasks to someone who is unlicensed that, I don't have to pay, New York City wages or US based wages. And so that really started my journey into, finding labor outside of the US for myself.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that foundation for everything. It's going to help us as we dive into these questions. Here at the podcast, we ask all partners the same 5 questions, and the purpose is to help build a comparable set of answers that any independent insurance professional can use to evaluate a solution provider for their business. And you really set me up so well for the first question that we have to ask, because we start with the story. We're huge believers in the power of an individual or a company's story to help build a bond with someone that they can potentially work with or they can potentially help. So the first question we have is, why does your company exist? And you kind of gave us one of the origin points, but I'd love to know what else is part of the Elevate story? What really led to the formation of you as a company, and then what inspires your commitment to independent agencies?
Yeah, so I think this is such a great question, and there's kind of two ways, in my opinion, to look at it. It's like, why do we exist in terms of like, why did we form this company to begin with, and then like, why do we exist in terms of like, what's essentially our mission statement to our clients today. For us, that's probably slightly different to an extent, but in terms of our origin story, my business partner Stan and I have known each other for many years. We were in a forum with a group called Entrepreneurs Organization. We initially met in, I think it was 2015 or 2016. We both love to golf, and we were golfing one day, and we were kind of kicking around ideas about starting a business together. And when I initially started outsourcing back in 2015 for myself, I started in India, then I went to Philippines, and then ultimately Stan introduced me to someone in Latin America. And from there, I exclusively hire people in Latin America as opposed to the other markets. So Stan is one of the reasons, if not the reason, that I found Latin America to begin with. And we were kicking around ideas, and we were talking about outsourcing. And he actually had an outsourcing business in Bangladesh, India, for many years. And we were kind of like, why don't we do something outsourcing related to that's exclusively in Latin America? And we wanted to find a niche. I had the niche. I said, I have a bunch of SOPs and training modules and things that we can use to get people up to speed. And so that was kind of the genesis of the idea. And then from there, we actually initially had a third partner who we ultimately no longer have, but the three of us launched the business. And then Stan and I were really committed to growing and scaling this business and helping people to also realize their potential and their employees' potential and their business's potential as well. In terms of why we exist for our clients, like we exist to provide the best possible experience when it comes to hiring people for our customers. And in doing so, that should allow them to grow their businesses in an efficient and profitable way. And especially in the independent agent model, whether or not you're selling today or you're thinking about selling, or even if you're not thinking about it, just knowing the value of your agency with the multiples on EBITDA and the trends in the marketplace, like, every dollar matters a lot. And so being able to find less expensive labor that's able to do unlicensed tasks not only increases the value of your business, but also increases the satisfaction of your licensed employees, because they're no longer doing tasks that they absolutely hate doing. When I interviewed someone, I would ask, what are the two things you like doing the least? And it was almost always certificates, notices of cancellation, and or binders and ID cards. And I would say, what if you didn't have to do those if you came to work at my agency? Like, that's great, right? So I was able to use that as a recruiting tool as well.
I kind of love that, and it makes me want to ask Gail, what are the two things you like doing the least in your agency?
Billing, that's a complaint, and evidence of insurance for the mortgage companies.
Sure, a lot of paperwork.
Mhm.
Um, Excellent, and I also appreciate that perspective. Something that I encounter a lot as I don't know the right term, but like a technology guy, like someone who lives and breathes fancy tools and gadgets and software. Oftentimes I feel like a mistake is made where the pitch is you can fire half your team if you use this service. But I really love what you just said. You can hire more quality licensed professionals because they're not going to get bogged down with this work that doesn't require that expertise, doesn't require that level of training, certification, experience. Um, that's a really cool way to position it. I appreciate that.
What we always said was, happy employees mean happy customers mean more referrals, and more referrals means more business, right? Part of having happy employees for us was having a team of virtual assistants to support them.
Mm-hmm.
and it worked. It worked incredibly well.
I think it'd be fair to say that Elevate participates in one of the faster growing service avenues for the insurance industry. HawkSoft, we can relate to that as someone who, our product, our only product, is a management system. We're in a healthy, competitive environment, and the perspective we bring into it is 80% of what we need to do are features or functionalities and workflows that everybody in our vertical has to do. And where we can really stand out is the 20% of things that we make different decisions on, that differentiate us, that make us stand out. And that 20% is where we gain our advantage and our foothold with customers. So with that in mind, my second question for you, Dom, is if you had to pick one aspect of Elevate that draws in and keeps customers, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing that draws in and keeps customers is our matchmaking. So Carrie, who's our director of matchmaking, is amazing. She does a great job, not only meeting with clients and potential clients to understand the way their agency works. Are they more heavily focused on commercial or personal? Like, what are the tasks that they're going to be looking for initially? And there's a whole host of questions and intake form that she goes through that I'm probably not doing much justice to right now. And she's much better at that job than I would ever be. But having said that, she really gets to understand our clients and prospective clients. And then she takes that information and then she goes back to the data that we've collected throughout our 4-week training course. So basically what we do is we recruit people. Of the applicants that we get, only 2% are accepted into our training program. And then once they're in the training program, half of those people get cut or quit. So our goal is to get rid of as many people as possible that we don't think are a good fit or that we would essentially hire ourselves. But in doing those 4-week trainings, we're grading people on a daily and weekly basis on a variety of factors. So things like homework, we do weekly tests, we do a test at the end, engagement throughout the class, attendance, et cetera. And there's a whole host of data that we collect throughout the training process that Carrie's able to look to when trying to match people with our existing customers or potential customers. And so that I think for us is the biggest draw.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Carrie. She is fantastic and did amazing work in making sure that we became partners. It's always a pleasure to work with her. So definitely a quality team. You have inside as well as outside of Elevate. Gail, if I can get your perspective as a customer of Elevate, do you feel like the effort that Dom and Carrie and the team go through to vet the virtual assistants that they help place with agencies, do you feel like that's making a difference in your experience?
Oh, absolutely, hands down. The quality, the the people that we're getting from Elevate, the work ethic, their just attention to detail, it's so noticeably. I came from using a different company at one time, and we were thought we were just going to be done using virtual assistants,
Mm.
and got introduced to Elevate as like to as a last ditch effort. Okay, let's give this one more try, and thank God, it's worked out wonderfully.
Fantastic, and I really look forward to next week diving into that more because I think there's a lot to discuss there. I want to take a little detour, and normally when we ask this next question, which is about the concept of data ownership, we're talking with an integration partner that is accessing an agency's data via an API. I do think that it's almost more relevant and critical to ask when we're talking with a company like Elevate, because there's this extreme amount of trust that comes in saying, I'm going to hire someone who I may never get a chance to meet in person, but I'm going to trust them with my agency's information. For HawkSoft, we have found that almost all of our customers gravitate towards a position on the concept of data ownership, that they, as the entity that is inputting the data, cultivating the data, growing their book of business, they own that data. And that's something that we stand behind. So for Elevate, how do you approach data ownership with regards to your agency partners, but then also maybe touch on how you approach data security as well? Because I think that's a concern people tend to have when they're outsourcing a workforce in a foreign country. It's that common response that I hear a lot is like, well, what about the security? It's like, it's the digital world. The kind of geography doesn't matter as much. But Dom, what's your perspective on that?
Yes. So in terms of data ownership, we in no way, shape, or form try to own any of our clients' data, anything that they're doing on their end, or having the people who work for us who are essentially working for them, any of the tasks they're doing, or proprietary processes, procedures, etc. We're not looking to own any of that. We're not looking to take any of that. Whatever people are doing, they're doing. So I think that's pretty straightforward for us, and we have no interest in trying to encroach on people's processes or procedures. In terms of data security, we do have a data security team that provides us with a host of different data security features. We are New York State DFS compliant and compliant in multiple other states. I use New York State as the example because it's the most stringent. Having said that, we take data very seriously. In addition to having a full data security and privacy program, we also carry cyber liability insurance. God forbid something does happen. Fortunately, it hasn't, but we understand the risks that are out there, and we feel like we've done a really good job addressing them accordingly, and then also layering on an insurance policy as a risk transfer. God forbid something were to happen.
As I mentioned, I kind of tilted my hand to the perspective I have on this is that I don't think there's anything less secure in bringing on a virtual assistant than there would be on just hiring someone in your own community. I think the onus is on having best practices, having security standards that you follow, and thinking through those worst case scenarios. And it sounds like you guys have plans and procedures in place to make sure that the worst doesn't happen. So the podcast we have here is really meant to be a dialogue between service providers and insurance professionals. The next two questions I have are squarely aimed at the ability to provide constructive feedback back and forth. And Dom, you have a lot of hands-on experience in the agency space itself. So I think you'll be able to give a pretty nuanced and informed answer to this question. Our fourth question is, what is the hardest part of working with insurance agencies for you?
So I think the hardest part of working with insurance agents for us, there's two things. I think one is some people feel like hiring a VA is going to be an easy button, and they think, oh, this person's going to come in and they're going to know everything, and I'll just throw a bunch of work at them, and my life's going to be so much easier, and I could go golf 4 days a week, and I'm not going to have to work that hard. That is possible, right? It is possible to train people to do things the way that you want to do them, to the extent that you don't have to work as much anymore. But there is work involved upfront, in getting people up to speed and making sure that they're doing things the way that you want them. They're labeling things the way that you want them. And outside of just like insurance tasks, like my personal assistant, has access to my inbox. She funnels my emails. She routes my emails for me. She books my travel. She, buys my wife gifts on her birthday. I hope she doesn't listen to this. No, I'm just kidding. My wife knows. I direct her as to which gift to buy. So there's a ton of things that people can do outside of just the insurance work. But, having said that, it took me time to sit with her every day for however long it was, half hour, go through my inbox, when this
Mm,
type of email comes in, this is how I want it routed. Like, write this down. Did you write it down?
mhm,
Okay, now tomorrow I'm going to sit with you again for 30 minutes and we're just going to process emails and you're going to follow the SOP that you wrote down yesterday and then critiquing it. Is it working? Is it not working? If it's not working, why? Adding steps, right? And you can do that for insurance too, right? Like if if you if you don't have all your SOPs done, you can build them out with this person, and it's a great way to do it. You
mm,
start with certificates, ID cards, pick something, whatever it is, and either you or someone on your staff sits with them for half hour, 90 minutes, whatever it is. This is how you do it. Write down every single step. Once you've written it down, here's 5 of them. You know, show me how to do them. They do the first one, there's a mistake, you fix it, right? And you tweak the process, and then you give them a batch, 20 to do, and see if they can get through 20 that are perfect. Now you know that
mm.
they have all the right steps to do that, and you can start giving them that work, check it periodically, but also move on to the next thing, and you can build out like SOPs over the course of time. The least success we have are people that just think it's going to be like an easy button, and then that's not the way it works. There's definitely, although we do train for a month, like there's still training that people need to do. But you know, if you take the time to do it, um, it really can work out incredibly well. That's probably the biggest challenge that we have.
Mhm.
In addition to that, it's like the opposite, where it's like, well, I don't have anything done and I want to do all of my SOPs before the person starts, because
Yeah.
then it's going to be perfect. And like, in my experience in running my business, like if I waited to get every SOP done, I probably would have never hired a VA, because I had a million other things going on, and that just would
Right.
have gotten deprioritized for me to the
Yeah.
extent that like I wouldn't have done it, or it would have taken me a really long time to do it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there's like a middle ground, and like this is a work in progress, and we're gonna work through this together, and like
Yeah.
we're going to train, we're going to learn together. And then once you get all those SOPs down, if you want to hire more people, now you could have your first VA start training your other VAs, and
Mm-hmm.
just overseeing the work. So at least that's what we did, and it worked really well for us.
I appreciate that. I think a piece of it is maybe a disservice that marketing professionals such as myself do, where in order to like sell a service, we have to convey the ease of it. I am a huge fan. We have a good partner out of Iowa, Client Circle, and they have this motto: "Work hard." And I think that that is kind of a good way to maybe summarize what you're saying there, is that they're going to help your agency, but it takes time to implement. And so one of the friction points you'll encounter is agencies that just assume that it's going to be day one, 100% hit the ground running, super easy, but it does take a little bit of effort, and some hard, meaningful work to get them really integrated into the agency.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, if you're willing to put in, you know, a little bit of work for, a relatively short period of time, the results are really amazing. Like my assistant, my personal assistant that I just mentioned, has been with me, I think, 3 years now, or 2.5 years. Like, my longest tenured VA has been with me for 7 years.
Wow.
So it's, and we train them, we've coached them up. They've taken on more and more work. Like it's really been an incredible journey to watch. And also, for me as a business owner, it worked. Like I said, it worked really well. So
What he's saying is absolutely true. You do have to take the time and to train, but once you've got your solid VA, as you add more, they train.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that, we'll definitely dive into this next week, but as like maybe a teaser to get people to tune in. Gail, when you had some less great experiences prior to coming to Elevate, was a piece of that maybe in how easy it was pitched to onboard a VA, or what other feelings you have about Dom's answer to that last question?
Well, it's just the quality of the talent. I mean, first of
Mm,
all, when I went to get a VA altogether, it was because we just couldn't find quality talent,
mm,
work ethic, people that wanted to work. It was during the pandemic.
mm,
People just wanted to stay home, and um, so I wanted to get VAs that were going to be very qualified to speak to our clients and represent our agency, and I wasn't finding that. Elevate, completely different experience. And I just know whatever their vetting process is, they say they get all these applications in and they pick the top 3%. I don't know what goes into that, but they've got it nailed because I have a few VAs, and there's just a big difference. So it's the quality of work, the knowledge. The ones that I have are bilingual, so they have to,
mm,
they speak really good English with our clients. They
mm.
also speak Spanish, which is wonderful because California, there's Spanish speaking. Um, and then there's a level of trust where we've bonded and they know how to watch out for things. And then, yes, I do trust the one who's been with us the longest to do training for any new onboarding.
That's awesome. And this brings us to the what we always call the upswing on that question. And our final fifth question, Dom, I'd love to know for you, what is the best part of working with insurance agencies?
Yeah, for us, the best part about working for insurance agencies is hearing the stories about the connections with our people. We had one customer who visited their VA, went down for their wedding down in Latin America. We've had multiple clients, fly their VAs up to the United States for a couple days, a week, whatever it might be. Show them the office, like show them the town or city that they're working in. Let them like immerse themselves in U.S. culture, even though it's for a short period of time. But it's amazing to hear like the connections that people have, and the relationships that they form over the years. That for us is like the biggest win, right? Where we're helping our client to better run their business in a more efficient way, and we're also helping someone in Latin America find meaningful work with a U.S. based business that really needs it. And so, like when we're able to win on both sides of the equation, for us, that's the best. That's the most rewarding part, and the best part about working with independent agents and having this business in general.
That's awesome. I really love that. This is a relationship based business, and um, I've spoken with a lot of happy Elevate customers that have shared similar stories to me, involving their virtual assistants in holiday parties, in annual retreats, that type of thing. And I think it goes a long way to view this type of resource not as uh, just a functionary warm body off somewhere that's doing repetitive tasks, but as a real member of the agency. And it sounds like the process that you guys go through really ensures that the individuals that are placed within an agency are ready to be productive, engaged, active members of that business.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of to piggyback what you're saying and what I said before, like really making people feel like they're part of the team will increase your chance of success exponentially, and also increase the retention rate exponentially, right? Like if you're including them in your new business bonus that you give to all your team members, and granted it
Mm,
doesn't have to be the same amount that you might give someone in the US, it could be less, but to feel like they're part of that and they're hitting their goals and they're getting a bonus and they're in the daily huddle that you do every day, or whatever weekly or daily meetings that you're doing, like really incorporating them as part of the team, whether it's renewal meetings, new business meetings, whatever it might be, um, that really enhances the success that we have with our customers for sure.
fantastic. And I think that sets us up really well to go into next week talking with Gail about her experience using virtual assistants from Elevate Teams and that'll be our teaser to draw people in. I would like to thank you, Dom, and Gail, for being here with us today and coming back next week. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the episode description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode, as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.